or when recording is used. So recording can be used to capture the voice and the thinking of someone who is trying to work through or explain something, which is the idea behind this explainer video, right? So the idea that if someone is trying to either create a tutorial or a quick video or an overview or a summary, trying to explain a point or a new topic or an idea, often that is one of the use cases for recording, if they're creating kind of this video. Another one would be this idea of a training, right? So if they want to create something for to train someone on how to use a certain system, or train them how to go through a problem or solve a problem, that it can be used for training videos. It can also be used to record a presentation, right? So as listed there, recording a presentation that you're giving, say it could be a lecture style, or kind of just this style where you want to capture the thinking and then be able to share that in video format for those that aren't present. And then we have this collaborative style video, which we'll talk a little bit about more today, when you have multiple people working on the same whiteboard, brainstorming and collaborating together, and you want to be able to capture the thinking or the annotations or the voice of multiple folks. That's the idea of a collaborative video. And then the final one is the just-in-time style video, which I kind of mentioned at the beginning, but it's just being able to kind of capture these quick captures, whether it's thinking or tutorials or overviews or summaries, that idea of being able to capture something just in time and then share it for others that might not be able to be present or remote or in different time zones. So that's the idea behind just-in-time videos.
That's a great introduction. But when we look at our users using Explain Everything, let's say to record presentation, oftentimes it happens that the real power of the whiteboard and its capacity to record is kind of like hidden, because you're doing a similar thing like with screen capturing apps. Today, we want to show you the full potential of Explain Everything in terms of recording. And it starts with an idea that I want to emphasize here, that what whiteboard recording in Explain Everything does is actually remembers and repeats your inputs. So whatever you do on the screen, what we're recording is not pixel by pixel representation of what occurred on the screen. Rather, we're capturing your activity and your input on the screen. And this is important because it allows for many manipulations and improvements, corrections, so you can reassess what you did, you can come back, you can add new elements without destroying those that were already recorded. And by this, Explain Everything turns into a very powerful tool that can be used with very simple techniques that we are going to demonstrate today. Before we do that, though, what I suggest for those that would have questions during the presentation, we're going to present you a few scenarios, but you can ask questions at this time of presentation. You can do so by putting your questions on a chat, Zoom chat, or if you feel like it, you can connect to us to this session. This is a cloud session on Explain Everything using this connection code here. So currently it's only me and Sam. You can see that in the top right corner of my screen. It's only me and Sam on this session. But if you join the session, what I suggest you do is to leave your questions here. I created such a, let's call it a question box here. If you type in your question, we will answer them at the end of the session.
Great. I also created a second slide where you can add questions as well if you don't want to interrupt what we're doing there. So feel free to add your questions on the second slide as well. As you can see, there's multiple slides within a collaborative session. And what you've noticed here is that I've actually added a second slide while Bart was mentioning that last comment. So there's the question slide for you guys to add in questions. Right.
Fantastic.
Yep.
So why don't we start demonstrating what we mean by capturing activity, actions, inputs on the screen. And I'll do that by starting a new project And if you have your Android or iOS device with you, you can try to follow me doing the similar thing. I'll try to keep the steady pace, not to go too fast, but I'm excited to demonstrate what this thing is able to do. So I'll begin with starting blank project. That's usually where you start with a whiteboard. And what I want to do is, let's say, for my short video, I want to have a stunning animation where, like in those movies where you have a paper rolling and the title showing up, the headline with something. I just want to have the same thing on a whiteboard with just few taps. So what I'll do, I'll demonstrate to you how I would record this, illustrating the capacity of the whiteboard. So for now, I'm not going to record audio at all. So I'll just mute microphone. So on the, here you see the microphone icon. I can add audio later to my video, and this is something we'll do as well. I need an asset. I can draw things on a canvas, but I can also bring things in. And I have this icon that you can actually find in our clip arts here. There are many icons that we share with Explain Everything. This is one of them. This is an icon with newspaper. And what I want to do, oh yes, one more thing before I begin. I'll display my taps and gestures. There's a setting in Explain Everything that allows me to show you what I'm tapping. So when you see this circle here, that means these are my taps. So you'll see my what I'm using while demonstrating. So I brought an object to the canvas, and what I want to capture in my video is like this newspaper spinning, and then title appear. It should appear. A title, a headline should appear. So how I do that? And no worries, we'll do it step by step, very slowly. I'll press record here. So whiteboard is already capturing my inputs, so I can start to spin this newspaper. Right? And as you see, I need some breaks in order to, capture this object during those movements. So if I play it back, I stopped my recording. If I play it back, whiteboard will basically show exactly what I provided on the screen. So there's this first movement, and there's this second movement, and there's this third movement. If I pause and display my timeline, you'll see those three movements here on the timeline, right? I basically provided 3 rotations of this object here. Now, the beauty of Explain Everything is that I can polish now my simple video animation in a way that, okay, first movement was provided in the 7th second. I don't need those first 7 seconds showing anything, so I can select this part of the recording and just hit this button to remove that. So now my recording starts from this first movement, and I don't need this pause when I was switching my fingers. So I similarly can select this part and remove it. And by this, I'll arrive at such animation. And as you see, if I continue to do that, I will arrive at quite polished, rotating animation, let's say. If I decide that this rotates too slow, I can select this and accelerate with this tool here. And let's say I will do that now. I will play it back. Okay, that's almost what I wanted to have. Now I need a headline to appear. So that's basically something I provided on second of animation. So that's important. I created a new element on the canvas, yet I was in the second of this animation. That means if I scroll back, this headline will not be visible, as it is only provided in the second of animation. So when you're editing your recording and you're adding new elements, it's important to remember where you're positioned in time. If you add something at the very beginning, it will be visible throughout the entire recording. But this headline should appear when this newspaper was finishing to spin. That's why I added headline at the very end. So let me play the entire animation back. There you have it. A very simple effect done with just a few taps without any need for animation tools or any knowledge about animation. What you need to have remembers my moves and just plays them back. Sam, if you could, where do you see the usage of this type of video recording? What's the in a classroom, let's say, where do you see the most use? Is it for priming students with information in a video form, or for recording the entire lessons? Sam, you're muted.
Thank you. I would say these just-in-time types of videos are probably the most common. If you think about different use cases here, what you just described was kind of this quick capture, right? So this idea that you can capture the actual movements that are happening on the screen, as well as you could have captured your voice if that was something that was important to this quick video. But this is what we would describe as a just-in-time type of video. Maybe it could be a quick feedback based on something that a student has done. It could be a quick overview of maybe a new unit or a new lesson that you'll be giving. These are kind of what we would call quick captures. That are a little bit more dynamic videos that use kind of the animation tools, that might use some different types of media that are built into Explain Everything, that are used to kind of deliver this quick type of video, and can be great for, again, quick feedback, can be great for showing whether you understand or you've mastered a concept very quickly. But yeah, there's some kind of dynamic ability here to not just record your voice and send a quick voice message, but actually show what you mean or what you're trying to do.
Let's try to demonstrate that. So let's imagine that I'm in a situation where I got assignment work provided by my student, and I want to provide quick video reaction. So let's say this is an object that was, this is a page provided by my student. I want to suggest some changes and give feedback. So this time when recording, I will activate my microphone. So I'll unmute my microphone here. And what I need to do is to press record and say, I got your assignment here. It's really nicely done. I specifically like this part here, although you have to remember about this and that, but overall, great job. That's all I did. So if I scroll through this recording, you'll see now on the timeline that I was drawing on top of this student's work with green color here and with red color here, right? Providing also my suggestions that you can see here as audio track. So if I play it back, specifically like this part here, although you have to remember about this and that. And as last time when I was trying to remove those empty spaces from this simple spinning animation, here, if I don't like something, let's say I made a mistake and I annotated with this red color wrong part of student's work, I can of course remove this input by tapping, holding, and then selecting delete. So I can redo this part and select another part. So I'll do this now. I'll just mute microphone because I don't need to provide another audio. It's already there. I just made a mistake annotating the wrong part of the document. So I'll hit record about this and that. And as you see, now I improved my video by providing this call out box, this simple drawing here on top of students' work in a different spot.
And how are you able to kind of layer that new recording on top of the existing voice recording?
So that's brilliant question, Sam. And this is a very important part of Explain Everything, where we're trying to guide you to. We call this recording modes, and we actually have 3 recording modes. You can insert something, let's say in the middle of recording, extending the recording by this new part. You can mix recordings, and that's what I did when I was recording, modifying existing recording, and you can overwrite. So overwrite is trivial, it just creates a new thing, but mixed recording is most exciting because what it means is that you can play the entire recording back and add new elements on top of existing ones, stacking new elements. So let's say I'll use mixed recording to add also a pointer, like an arrow. I'll take red arrow and I'll use this arrow when providing instructions that were captured last time. So I'll hit record here. I got your assignment here. It's really nicely done. I specifically like this part here, although you have to remember about this and that. So now I added this arrow movement, a silly, really silly arrow movement, on top of the existing recording, just to make it more interesting and just to direct attention to some of the parts by stacking new element of recording on top of existing ones.
And that's something that often folks don't know about Explain Everything, that you can really layer recordings on top of other recordings. So as you can see, as he scrubs through that timeline, where you can see the different movements of the arrow and then the drawings where he's pointing out what he wants improvements on and what he doesn't want improvements on, you can see that there's layers of recording that have been made on top of each other now. And with that mixed recording, you can add layer after layer after layer of recording to make it a little bit more dynamic. So for example, you don't have to do everything within one recording, right? You could say, if you're new to Explain Everything, for example, you could record your voice and say you want to tell a story. You could record your voice for 2 minutes or 5 minutes or however long the stories you want to tell. And then you could go back and add in the pieces of media that really kind of tell the story or illustrate the story, right? So you don't necessarily have to do everything in one motion, but you can go back and kind of revisit things that you've already done or record another layer on top of an existing layer. But one thing to remember is that, if you've recorded your voice, that next time you go through, as Bart mentioned, you want to mute your voice out or to record another layer on the existing recording. So with the mixed recording, there's really kind of infinite possibilities to kind of really create a dynamic video where you could have, say, for example, 10 apples falling from a tree at one time because of the ability to go back and mix and layer those recordings on top of each other, or having 10 cars move at the same time. And people always ask, how do you do something like that? Well, that's the ability to pause it, go back and mix the recording and add in these more dynamic features. So that's something that's quite nice with these kind of just-in-time types of videos.
And it's also something that can allow you to create a very elaborate animation. So here, demonstrating what Sam just mentioned, I have 30-second video to show you what kind of results you can get layering videos on top of each other. So this is something I created by first doing voiceover. I just recorded my voice, and then I did 2 slides. I'll show you this 30-second video, and then I can explain how it was done so you can understand the sequence, how it was built to have the result, the effect that I'm going to show you. So for now, I'm going to play it full screen.
It's 21st century, and yet we're still using our hunter-gatherers language to think and speak very complex thoughts. That's why adding a visual layer to support conversation is useful and sometimes even necessary. Personally, I was never good with words. What I was good at was work. That's why I prefer showing results instead of telling. When you ask me, why explain everything should exist, you don't have to follow my words. You can pull up the screencast and basically figure for yourself.
So this is quite elaborate animation, as you see, illustrating possibilities of videos done and explain everything, and projects and assets created here. And this is a result that would not be possible to achieve on one go, because there are 4x4, 16 different elements. Most of those elements are in form of a video, like here. Those videos can play. And in order to orchestrate them in such a movement, this is a work that has had to be done with simple steps, yet in a sequence. So this shows you what is possible. Let me show you how easy it is when you have such a tool for your disposal. So the first slide was an introduction, where I introduced a concept and showed those dots. Those dots are actually objects that you can create using an object tool like that. You can introduce those dots. As you can see, I already modified the movie, adding a new dot here. So I added a few dots. I moved the dot, and then I moved another one. It's like in this James Bond introduction movie. And then there were a few words that I just wrote on the screen with this tool here. And then I removed those words. So basically how it was done, it was I played the movie to the moment where I wanted those words to disappear, and I just used delete button to remove them at this in a moment of time. Then what happened? There was this movement of one of those dots falling down, and it was just a simple movement. I just took it with the hand tool and brought it down, recording, doing the mixed recording again, so I can add another dot falling down the same way, like this. As you see, it would fall down. And then there was this animation of a dot breaking up, right? And you can actually do the same by, let's say, I have here this circle and I want to provide a simple animation that it's breaking apart. What I did, I used cutout tool to make a cutout of this dot. We call it cutout tool, but it's actually a replicator tool. It replicates what is selected on the screen. So I replicated this dot to have two halves of this dot. I positioned those so they cover the dot, and I removed the dot that was behind those two halves that I had. So again, I missed one of those halves, right? And then I removed the circle and provided input for those two halves to fall apart. And on the second slide, what you actually see is a sequence where those elements were introduced to the audio that was pre-recorded. One by one, I introduced those elements. Without this movement, you can see the scale out movement. This movement was added at the very end of the recording process. So without this movement, I just introduced elements one by one. I played those videos when I wanted them to play, mixed recording again and again, and writing those words, those descriptions that you see here or here or here. And at the very end, I did the mixed recording using the zoom tool to provide this dramatic effect of scaling out, just to have a bit of movement. And the entire labor to produce complicated looking video was actually done in a matter of minutes. So Sam, what do you think? I guess I went too much with illustration here. This is not something that Explain Everything is usually used for, right?
Yeah, so this wouldn't be, I think this would be what we think of as like an expert use case, or something that is a little bit more, you know, focused on bringing in a bunch of different ideas into one space. So this is almost like a research project, is what I would think of that as, where you know, you have the ability, we haven't shown this for those that are new, but as you saw there, Bart brought in a number of different movies, right? So you can bring in MP4 videos directly into Explain Everything, and you can record those videos. You can record what's happening in those videos, or you can annotate those videos, right? So as you can see here, he added in a number of different videos pre-existing. He either had them in his camera roll or he had them in his Google Drive folder. You can bring in these MP4 videos from anywhere. You can also bring in these other types of assets, right? You probably have some PNG style, some JPEGs, some PDFs, right? That's what's really nice about Explain Everything, is the ability to bring in all of these different types of media, which is really kind of illustrated in what you've done here, where you can bring in all these different types of things that are happening. And this could have even been, you know, 20 different Explain Everything projects that have been exported as videos, right? So these could all be individualized projects of Explain Everything that you created in Explain Everything, and then you want to bring them in and create kind of maybe a unit project, or something that you know, incorporates everything that you've done over a semester and Explain Everything. You could bring in all those videos that you've created and create kind of a master style project, whether it's either a book report or a chapter summary of a book that you just have read, where you do a quick video on each of the chapters. Those are just kind of examples of what's possible here. But yeah, you can see kind of all these different types of media are incorporated into this kind of really you know, dynamic looking kind of expert project. And again, you could take this entire project in this recording and then export it as its own video, or you could export it as even you know, a GIF if you wanted to, right? You could select a part of that timeline that has been recorded within this project, and you could actually export that as a GIF and show someone all of these different things happening within that project. So yeah, there's a ton of different opportunities here.
So why don't we demonstrate the GIF thing, because this is quite exciting. But before we do that, what you mentioned about aggregating projects, let's say at the end of semester, is something that is also worth mentioning. So as a teacher, you can react with a video to a video. So if you have videos created by your students, you can go ahead and give your video reaction to a video, aggregating those if you want to have like a cumulative project that contains videos provided by students where you provide your reaction as a teacher. And in order to arrive at that, I'll try to display to you. So I'll try to show you how it would be done. So let's say I'm going to fake it. So I'm going to provide a project with this video. That's a student's video illustrating one of the Monteverdi's madrigals. So that would be project number 1. I already created in this project 8-second long video. And let's say I'm going to take another piece of this crazy recording just to create a project number 2. So let's say I'll take this video here and I'll bring to life project number 2. And that would be supposedly a second video from my students. And this video plays as well. It does not have to be long. Let's say it's just 5 seconds long project. That's a project number 2. And let's say now I'm in a position of being a teacher that wants to provide a video reactions to those 2 videos that you see here, project number 1 and project number 2. The way we would go about this is I would merge those projects together so I can have one project where I can provide my reaction. Sam, would you do it similarly?
Sure.
So that would be video reaction from your teacher. If you do that, new project will appear, and this new project contains now both slides that were previously separate projects of my students. So now I can go ahead as a teacher and record my reaction to those videos that are on those slides. So let's say I'll do overwrite here, and with a simple click of record, I can go ahead, play this video here, and provide reactions of what I like or what still needs some improvement. And I can do that with all of those gestures and suggestions that we provided before. And then I can go slide by slide, doing it again and again to rest of the projects provided by my student. So I can then, when in the classroom, I can play it all together or use those elements from students' projects when presenting live. Would that make sense, this scenario, Sam?
Yeah, so I think this is a pretty common way that feedback is provided. Just like this, either video format or bringing in a thesis or essay and providing a little bit of feedback based on what is seen. And often this is great feedback that can happen in a kind of a live setting. But if you don't have that opportunity to work in a live setting, Explain Everything is a great way to deliver that feedback with the use of technology. And then we just had the question, if you were to create a video like that, how would it be exported? And could it be exported as an HD video? So if you could, Bart, would you mind showing them the different export options within the settings, the different kind of resolution options, and then just showing them the different export options as well?
Absolutely. So we'll practice that on this first animation that we provided. This is a very short animation. We can make a GIF and export it as HD video. So the options to export are visible in the settings. So if you go top right, 3 dots menu, you have settings here. And there you have export settings, where you can choose resolution for your video and quality. So when exporting to YouTube, let's say, this is the resolution that you want to use. It's just 2K. The quality here, you can set good is good enough, but if you want to have it flawless, you can choose best. You choose the format type. And also, this is interesting. If you have slides that don't contain any recording, you can still make them visible on the resulting video. So a still slide would be, if I choose this option, visible for 5 seconds. There's also option to choose how the rendering of PDFs should be done, but there are many options. The most important ones are for videos are resolution and quality, and also one more that is here, that is frame options. Frame options allow you to choose what are going to be the proportions of your canvas. So for now, I had 4:3. That means these are exact proportions of iPad screen. But if I'm going to send my video to YouTube, it would be better to use 16:9, because that's actually the ratio for YouTube. And one thing to notice, if I select that, you'll see that now I have those red lines here and here. And they appeared because the proportion of my screen is different than the resulting video. That's why if I render my video now, those portions of the screen would not be visible on the resulting file. So let me go ahead and render this short animation as a movie. So I'll do it by export button here. And for now, I'll just use local export, that is second option, save to your device here. And I'll save as a video. So previously I choose, and I'll save to save video just here. So now you see what Explain Everything does is that it repeats all those actions that we provided on the canvas in order to capture the frames. So at the end, we have a video as a result. If your presentation, your recording is long, it's better to use cloud recording, as we can do the rendering to movie in cloud without blocking your device. Because for sophisticated animations, it might take a few seconds, as now it took us as well. So since I already have my video, it was rendered to the camera roll, I can bring it here. That's my video. I can even put it here to the canvas and play it on the canvas of Explain Everything. I don't have to quit whiteboard in order to play this video.
Great, thank you. So that's the export to MP4 style video, right? So, or .movie file. That's kind of the traditional export style, where you could take that video that Bart just created and you could post it, whether it's a whether it's one of these just-in-time videos that where you're giving an assignment or some instruction for homework tonight to your students, right? Where you could actually have a voice recording. You could also have interaction with maybe the assignment that they have to work on, and you could provide some some voice recording if you want to remind them to use a specific formula, or use something that you've given them previously to help them work through that problem. You could provide that within this recording, and then post it again either in your learning management system or on YouTube, kind of wherever that you use to create this stuff. Now you could also, that's kind of those just in time, those quick snapshot videos is kind of what I think of those as. And then we talked a little bit about at the beginning about these more kind of video lessons or training videos. I refer to these more as the Khan Academy style videos. So if those of you who are on this call are familiar with Khan Academy, it's basically just a space where videos are organized in a way that allows a student to kind of work through an entire subject area, right? So it could be Algebra 2, and this is a course that someone wants to take on Algebra 2. Well, this is an open source website where you can find courses on all this type of learning that is going to be happening, right? So whether it's a class, whether it's an entire course, whether it's a quick subject area, whether it's a review, these Khan Academy style videos are great for learning, right? And these are kind of more of these video lessons or training style videos. Now, not all of Khan Academy videos are created with Explain Everything, but that's kind of the style here, where you actually record an entire lesson. And obviously we're not going to show you because we don't have an hour long today to record an entire lesson. But if you're teaching your class and you're using Explain Everything as your presentation or whiteboard, you could actually just hit that record button and record the entire presentation that you're providing and then post it, right? Just like we posted that short video, you could do the same thing with an entire lesson, so that folks that maybe are absent or couldn't make it to class or might need that extra review, they could revisit those videos that have been recorded during the lesson and wherever you post them, and that will help them, again, either review for a test, or if they were absent, see what you did in class, and be able to not kind of lose pace with assignments or homework or whatever that might be. So that's again an example of both this focus on recording and kind of the just-in-time videos, as well as the idea that you could record an entire lesson or training and then post that as well.
So one thing to notice here in this scenario that you mentioned, Sam, I just trying to replicate how it would look like. So I pressed the record button and I started to provide my instructions. to students, I do have here a web object that is a browser. So I can bring it here, show things within the browser, take it away, annotate something on the screen, and everything gets captured by Explain Everything, including my voice. Annotate something on the screen, and everything gets captured by Explain Everything, including my voice. So that's what we're doing here. One thing to notice in this scenario, if you continue to record, and I'll still continue to record here, and if you change slides, so I'll add slide number 3, the recording will continue, right? You see here that it's still going, although recording is slide dependent. That means on each slide, and if I pull up slide sorter here, you see that the second slide had 45 seconds of recording. The third one has already 11. On the screen, and I go back to slide number 2, oh, it records, but it records at the end of slide number 2. So just to keep that in mind, in order to have one video resulted from your presentation, just try to keep it linear, going from slide number 1, 2, 3, without coming back. If you need to do that, use Explain Everything Canvas, as it's actually unlimited. So you can move freely around and add additional elements, so you don't have to change slides as I did before. Otherwise, you'll end up with mixed recordings. Does that make sense, Sam?
Yes, it does. I think that's a kind of a great way to explain the kind of different opportunities here. And then also, you know, not having to use just one slide, but being able to use multiple slides to create a kind of extended video, and being able to kind of set up your presentation almost like a PowerPoint, where you have, you know, you can, once you get through a discussion topic or a question or assignment that you've given the students, you can move on to the next slide, and it'll continue that recording. So that's great.
So
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
So I think the one last type of recording that we haven't talked about, or the idea of creating kind of these explainer types of videos, would be this collaborative video.
Yeah, but before we go there, we forgot about GIF.
Oh, right.
Since we have this tiny little animation here that is 2 seconds long, I just want to show you how you can create GIF out of this. So let's say I want to export it as a GIF. All I need to do is to select which part of the recording I need to export, because the GIF is for short forms. This is not something we export using this export menu here. But you have an option to export selected parts of recording using this button here. Once I do that, I can, let's say, save to Dropbox a GIF that would create like this. This is already a created GIF that will look exactly as the video that I showed before, but it's in GIF. So those could be like 20, 25 seconds long, if I remember correctly, but you can definitely create GIFs from little pieces of animation you have and Explain Everything.
Great.
So that's what I wanted to show you before we continue with collaborative recording. So Sam, you were mentioning collaboration, right?
Yes, so if we jump back into that project that we were in earlier.
Yeah.
So I'm still in here, and we can show them kind of what the possibilities are to create more of this you know, collaborative style where you have multiple people that's part of the whiteboard. So what we were showing you previously, and again, if you're on the call here, feel free to join with the code that you'll see on the screen in front of you in a minute once he joins.
Oh, the screen is not updating. I'm actually on the session, but there's a problem with Zoom, so let me fix it. Hold on.
Great. And yeah, while we wait, we can, we can talk about what you saw there. What we were doing was creating these more kind of standalone types of recordings, right? So recordings where you're just an individual and either you're recording a presentation or recording a just-in-time style video, whatever it might be. Now you have the ability to actually join in and work together in this more kind of brainstorming style video. So we can do that now.
This is going to be exciting. What we would love to do is to do the collaborative recording with you. So we see Andy is with us, but if some of you that are watching could join using this code, I'll show you how you can connect to us even without having a tablet device. And you can join to this session with a browser using this address. It's going to be even simpler if you go to Explain Everything website and put the connection code where the search field is. So the code is VMFQ. Yeah. That's the connection code here. Someone took it away. That was you, Sam. Yeah. So if you put the code in your browser on our website, you'll be able to immediately connect to us. So we encourage you to do so. And before you connect, we'll set the scene for our recording. What do we record today, Sam?
Good question. So I remember last time we added a number of different cars and just had them go along the street, which was kind of neat. I don't know how many people are going to be able to join. So maybe we could do that same thing as we did last time.
Sure. So I'll add some cars in the meantime.
It looks like on Zoom it's still delayed.
It is. That's true.
If you remove the browser, it should work.
Hold on. I'll share my screen again. It's still delayed. But when I leave project and re-enter it again, it updates the screen. Okay, interesting. So let's say on slide 3, okay, it's working fine now. On slide 3, I'm going to add a few cars. So there's 3 of us, but I'll add 4 cars here, just to have one spare. Okay, I'll flip those around. And yeah, we can fill them with some colors. Who wants a black car? All right. So for those of you that are connected to the collaborative session, please go to slide number 3 and try to grab your car with 1 or 2 fingers. With 2 fingers, you can scale. With one finger, you can move around, right? And what we'll do, I'll hit record here so we can record cars moving around, and at some point of time, they will just crash. How about that? Okay? Are you ready?
Yes.
So I hit record here, and cars are going around, moving, and BAM! There was this horrible crash. All right, that was our recording. It's not yet done because we need some smoke, you know. I'll just find at what second we had this crash. So I'll play it what we have currently.
And again, feel free to ask any questions within the question and answer. We'll get to that in just 1 minute because I know we have to wrap up soon. And the code is, Bart, do you mind sharing the code just one more time so I can put it in the Q&A section?
Sure, I'll put it to the Q&A. Absolutely.
All right, what's nice now, if Bart is if he's adding the code in the Q&A, I can go within this recording. You won't see it happening on your devices, but I can actually go to different points of this video that we created, and I can add in my own elements that I might want to. So I scrub to the end of the video, and I can go into maybe my clip art section, and I could add, as Bart mentioned, let's see if I can find a cloud or some smoke or something like that. Or I could just go into my text box, and I know there's an emoji with a cloud. So I could go in there, and I could add in that.
Oh, nice.
And then maybe I could duplicate that if I wanted to. So I could take that.
I'll take one piece of that.
Right? And we can add in this part of the explosion.
Right, so I'll cut out this smoke here. Okay. And now we can add explosion and animate smoke coming out of the window of the car. So if I hit record here, I can animate this movement. Okay. If I play it back.
One question here we can talk about quickly, Bart. The question was, can any participant in the collaborative session record and add new layers on top?
Anyone can activate recording, but the recording, when it happens, it happens to everyone. So then all inputs that are provided to explain everything are going to be merged during this recording. But you can think of this as, once recording is activated, all input counts, and it's you or other participant that can activate a recording. So the logic of Explain Everything actually is that we try not to limit the tools and possibilities. We allow users to select what they want to do. So a behavior on such session is important, just to behave well, because you can mess around and you can mess content showed by you as a teacher during the session, or you can mess any other content provided to the canvas if you behave badly. So just make sure to suggest to your students that everything is welcome, just don't destroy stuff for others, and then you're good.
And one thing to remember is you can also delegate who is able to contribute to the whiteboard, right? So if you want everyone that's joining to actually just be a viewer and not a contributor, you can turn off those permissions within the session, right? So it's not necessary that if you don't want anyone to contribute, or if someone is, again, deleting things or adding things that aren't appropriate, right? In those cases, you can add them as a viewer, or you can actually just remove them from the session, right? So there's ways to kind of understand and kind of create the session that you're looking for. If there's certain folks in the class, or there's certain types of projects that you're working on that you might not need everyone to contribute. For example, you might just want one or two people. So those are kind of different opportunities there.
And while you were describing that, I played a bit with smoke just to create this effect of smoke coming out of this car. It's still not perfect. And as you see, when I'm recording time after time, this actually brings every collaborator, every participant of the session to the same view as I have when recording. So this is important. You're free to move around the canvas and switch between the slides, but when recording happens, everyone is brought to the same view where recording takes place. So just keep that in mind. So we have another question. Can any participant in the collaborative board record and layer?
Oh, that was the question I just read.
Okay, right,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah. So it looks like those are all the questions that we have right now. If you do have follow-up questions that might come to mind after the session here, again, feel free to reach out to us you can reach out to us directly at support@explaineverything.com. We also do have a wonderful kind of fact section that's built into the recording here, that if you go into that top right-hand corner, you can actually look for there's an about section, there's a manual, and there's video hints, right? So if you're looking to kind of get started with Explain Everything, there's a great kind of help section built in, as well as a manual, as well as some videos. That should help you get started. But again, we're available at support@explaineverything.com. I'll put it in the window here. And I don't know, Bart, if there's anything else that you want to add.
Just feel free to browse through those articles that we left in the Help Center. Those are illustrated also with use of Explain Everything. So we kind of like explain our tool with our tool. So happy to hear from you, happy to hear your reactions, and we invite you to other sessions that we will soon put on our webinars subpage. Happy to see you again.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
Thank you for participation. See
Bye-bye.
you.